everyone, I'm Shripriya, just your regular brown girl in Japan. If you're new here, welcome to my channel. I make videos about day-to-day life in Japan, so check that out. And today we are discussing how much it actually costs to live in Japan as a university student. In this video, I'll walk you through my budget of the month and also a general range of what to expect when you're in Japan. Talking about the rent, you can either live in a dorm or a studio apartment. Usually dorms have a little less freedom than a studio apartment. That's why I chose to move to a studio apartment. Dorms are also a little cheaper. If you're living in a dorm, then the rent could be between 30 to 40,000 yen. But if you're living in a studio apartment like me, you can expect the rent from about 40,000 yen to 50,000 yen. Talking about my rent specifically, I pay 43,650 yen per month. This is excluding the utilities, and by utilities I mean electricity, gas, water bill. So I'm gonna break that down. For electricity, bill is about 2,000 to 4,000 yen. It really depends. If you're like me, if you're either too hot or too cold, then you're gonna turn on the AC or the heater way too often, and that's gonna spike up your electricity bill. For water, it again depends on how often you take the shower. The water bill is usually about 2,000 to 4,000 yen. For gas, you pay from 1,500 yen to 3,000 yen. I have also included the phone bill in my utilities. For phone bill, it depends really on the carrier. Usually the phone bill here in Japan is much more expensive than in India. The most cheaper plan would be around 2,000 yen, and they could go up to 3,500 to 4,000 yen. There's also Wi-Fi. Some of the apartments provide free Wi-Fi, but most of them don't. You can expect the Wi-Fi cost to be 4,000 to 6,000 yen. That brings us to the total of about 11,500 yen to 17,000 yen. Last month, I paid around 10,000 yen in utilities. The Wi-Fi in my apartment is free, so that saves me about 4,000 yen in that. Next comes the food. If you're like me, if you're a student or on a budget, then chances are you would probably cook more than eating out. Talking about the groceries, if you're a vegetarian like me, then you might want to spend more money on buying vegetables and including fruits in your diet, which are a little expensive in Japan rather than just buying meat. How much you spend on groceries also depends on where you buy your groceries from. In my opinion, there are three kinds of stores where you could get your groceries from. The first one is the convenience stores, which are everywhere, just right around the corner, but they also happen to be most expensive among the three, and that's probably because they have a shorter supply. They're not really grocery stores. The second category, I think, are stores like Aeon or Seiyu. Seiyu is a 24-hour grocery store here in Japan, and these stores are located at less locations than the convenience stores, but they are bigger, so they are less expensive than the convenience stores. The third category is these wholesale stores, which are probably the biggest, and they're also way cheaper than convenience stores. The one that I really like is Gyomu, but you wouldn't find them very often, so you really need to do your research and then find the one nearest by. Groceries usually cost about 20 to 25,000 yen a month, so depending on where you're shopping from, if you're getting more fruits or vegetables. Last month, I spent 20,500 yen on groceries. Within the food category, the next is eating out. Unfortunately, eating out in Japan is not so affordable, at least when you're a student like me. You can't really afford to eat out every day, so most days I usually just cook, and on the weekends I treat myself a little. But yeah, if you're going for a fast food chain like a McDonald's or Subway, then they're going to be cheaper than going to a fancy restaurant. Usually a meal at McDonald's costs about 700 to 1,000 yen. If you're going to a fancier place, a meal would cost from 1,500 to 2,000 yen per person. If you're even fancier and if you can really afford, there are these traditional Japanese places like sushi places where the chef is really just making it in front of you. Those are are way expensive. I can never afford them. They cost around 10,000 to 15,000 yen per person. So yeah, not an everyday thing. On average, eating out costs about 15 to 20,000 yen per month. I spent about 22,000 yen last month. It's funny because the upper range in that category is 20,000 and I spent 22,000. Okay, so we're done with the rent, we're done with the food. Next up is transportation. Public transport in Japan is the most convenient and the cheapest you will find. Taxis in Japan are a lot more expensive than what you would find in India. So I usually do not take taxis unless it's very late at night and I can't find a subway. To give you an idea how much do taxis cost in Japan, for 5 kilometers it costs about 3,000 yen. Overall, on average, transportation costs about 5,000 to 8,000 a month. It again depends whether you're going to your lab every day and how far your lab or your place of work is from your accommodation. For me, I don't have to go to my lab every day, so that kind of saves me up on transportation cost. Last month I paid about 2,500 yen. Next up is insurance and taxes. Since I'm a student, I don't have to pay any taxes right now. Coming to the insurance part, most of the students are enrolled in a national health insurance. That also depends on how much you're getting every month. For most scholarships like mine, you usually pay 1,800 yen, but if you're getting a higher stipend, then you might pay 7,000 yen a month. So all of these costs are something that you really need to spend in order to survive in Japan. Now let's talk about the fun part. Let's talk about hobbies. So I have joined swimming classes which cost around 7,800 yen a month. If you're into fitness and you want to join a gym, they usually cost around 7,000 to 10,000 a month. Again, if your university provides gym facilities, then you can save up on that as well. And the last category is this miscellaneous personal expense category. So every month I spend some money on skincare or clothing or just going out for movies, and for that I usually have a budget of about 5,000 yen a month. Approximate cost of living in Japan every month comes around 101,000 yen to 131,000 yen. For me, that's usually on the higher end. I usually spend about 130,000 yen per month, which gives me 16,000 yen to save. Not a lot of money, but still better than nothing. This is for a city like Sendai where I live, which is not really a big metropolitan city like Tokyo. If you live in Tokyo, then obviously you would spend a lot more than this budget. If you want to know more about travel in Japan or buying electronics in Japan, then let me know in the comments below and I'll make a short video about it. And I'll see you guys next week. Until then, like, share and subscribe. Bye bye.